This fun double dynamic invert, I have heard called a double flare invert. If you have another name for it, I would love to hear, but that's what I've heard it called mostly. And it's very descriptive because it's a double flare into an invert. So for this one, um, it's best on spinning pole. Could you make it work on static? It's not going to have quite the same glory moment. The spin and the centripetal force is part of what makes it so majestic. So definitely, I would recommend doing this one on spin. There are a lot of spin moves. It doesn't matter which direction you are spinning to which way you're inverting. For this one, it does matter. So let's talk about logistics here so that you can start doing a little, pole math here to figure out which direction you're going to spin and which direction you're going to invert. If you are a clockwise spinner, that means that you're going to end up inverting with the pole on your right side for this one. Okay. If you are a counterclockwise spinner, that means you are going to end up inverting with the pole on your left side. Okay. But the way we start this move kind of seems a little confusing because initially it almost seems like our hands are opposite. So let's start breaking down the pieces and some of the intro kind of ease into this because there are a lot of things that go into this all at the same time. Okay. For this one, I'm on a short pole, in case you didn't notice. This pole is only 8 feet, less than 2 meters, and I'm 5'8". Okay, so my version is a little modified. For this one, I find it works best to do at least one climb before you start the transition to prep for this move. You, of course, can do more than one climb, but as you can see here, and as you'll see when I demo, I only have room for like 1.5 climbs here. And even then, it's a little touch and go whether I actually touch the ceiling or not on that invert. So just keep that in mind. This one does require some space around and up. Okay, so plan accordingly. If you're working on this room with a lot of other pullers around, just be aware of flying legs. So for this, I am a preferred counterclockwise spinner. I do this one in both directions, but my preferred side is clockwise, which puts me on my right side invert. I'm good inverting either way, but if I had to choose on my spin, I prefer clockwise, just me. So if I'm spinning clockwise, very important is I'm going to start with my right hand up on my first climb. And this is assuming I'm going to do one climb. And then as I start the second climb position, that's what's going to prep my hand. So I'm going to walk you through the pieces here. It's going to seem like a lot of pieces, and then we'll practice these in little pieces to put them all together. Okay, so since I'm going clockwise on my spin, and that means inverting with the pole on my right side, my first climb is going to be right hand up here. From here, my hands are going to switch. My legs are staying the same. If I had a higher pole, I could add another climb in here. But since I don't, I just need my hands to switch, which means now my left hand is high. My other hand is going to need to be no lower than my armpit. Okay. You can put it anywhere between your elbow to your armpit. For me personally, on this next step on here, I use my forearm, but as many of you may have heard me say before, I have terrible grip strength. Just telling you. So sometimes I don't always trust my grip with this. This I feel a little more solid with. And this move totally works either way. If you prefer to be here, if you prefer to be here, do you, boo. Both are magical. Okay. So first climb. If you have room to move your legs, great, do a second climb. Hands are going to switch, okay? Lower hand, no lower than my armpit. Now, here's where it starts getting even more confusing. We've sort of worked what's going on with our hands. Now we got to figure out these things, okay? If my left hand is high, that means my right foot, opposite side, is going to go with the arch side of the foot on the pole. This is very important. When I haven't done this one in a while and I've gone back to do it again, I've accidentally put my foot on the other side. It makes it very clunky and so not smooth, and it throws off all the majesticness of it. Okay, so arch of your foot into the pole, and it's the opposite leg to your top arm. Okay, then from here, that other leg, it's up to you how you want to stylize it. Sometimes I'll take it to kind of a dramatic arabesque move where go through here, we switch, we're right here, and you can hang out here for as long as you want. You can make it big, you can make it little. That is up to you. Personal preference, okay? You can hold that leg for a long time, a short time, love you long time, whatever. Style is it however you want. But what's really important from there is that is the setup to start our twizzle into our double flare. So arch of the foot is on the pole. The leg starts back, and like I said, you literally can just throw it back and then bring it in or hold it back for a while. But this is important. My foot that is on the pole, my heel, is ever so slightly pushing to help me create distance. And this is important. If I bring this other leg in and just here, I'm going to start to lose this distance, and I may or may not clock the pole as I try to swivel into my first flare. Okay. So I'm actively pushing away, which is why I like having this forearm here, arch of my foot here, and then this leg is my wind up. Okay. When you're ready, like I said, depends on how long you want to leave this leg out here. You're going to bend this knee, muy importante. And also, I want to make sure that I am looking in the direction I'm going, which in this case is towards the shoulder of my bottom arm. So you're going to look over that shoulder, bend that free leg, and you're going to swivel here. Okay. Where your head is looking is very important. If you just look here, chances are this knee is going to come here and clock the pole. And that's it. It might clear, it might not. But if your head is turning, you'll tend to swivel more. Okay. So let's start with just that part, putting it together. Okay. Here's the beautiful thing about this. Even if you are not an aerial inverter, you can work on just this part here and taking it to kind of this fan kick and then back into a climb. Gorgeous move. No invert needed. Okay. And then as your invert starts to strengthen and progress, then you start to add the invert in. Okay. So keep in mind, I'm going to keep doing this all the same direction just so it doesn't get confusing in this one because it's already confusing enough. I am spinning clockwise and I'm going to end up inverting with the pole on my right side. Okay, so starting, first climb, spin, hands adjust, opposite foot to hand on my arch, look over my shoulder and spin. Okay, so something to note here. When I brought my knee through, it brought my butt to this side of the pole. That is very important. If I don't get through, I stop right here and my bootay gets stuck on the pole. And then suddenly this becomes a very sticky situation, okay? Sometimes stickier than others, depending on how much skin you have here, size of the booty, you know the drill, right? So what is gonna help with that, making sure our butt clears, is A, making sure my head is looking because that's gonna help me spin more, and B, really think about bringing this knee up. What tends to happen is when we think about bringing this knee up, we automatically kind of contract here a little bit. You can add a little extra contraction here if you want to and make it even more spicy, okay? But really think about this knee up. It's not just coming to here, think here. I think of trying to bring my knee to my opposite shoulder. It's not actually going to go all that way, but at least it's moving in the direction it needs to be, okay? So we've got our first climb, hand switch, swivel. Where do we go from there? Once again, confusing because we are now coordinating hands and legs. The same knee that came up is going to do our first flare, okay? Those of you that are maybe not aerial inverters yet, you can take this from here. We'll do a fan kick and then take it right back into a pole sit. Fantastic. If we're taking it to the full double flare to the invert, we're going to take it to just our first flare first here, okay? So I ended up here, right? That bent knee is going to stay bent until it gets to here. Then it's going to circle, legs straight here. We're still spinning centripetal force. And then this is the part where if you are not an inverter, hello, if you are taking it to the invert, we end up, I don't actually go backwards because the pole is spinning the other way, but you end up taking it to your invert, which is where it would be your double flare into your invert. Okay, so let's take it as far as just through the first flare. Okay, so we've got our first time. Ooh, little tidbit on this. I know sometimes when moves are newer to us, we want to spin a little bit slower sometimes to be like, oh, okay, I'm still figuring it out. I will tell you, I've made that mistake with this one, thinking, ooh, I want to go slower because my brain is moving a little slower. A little bit faster spin makes this move actually easier. If you are spinning too slow, that swivel part where I said you got to clear your butt, sometimes we don't have enough centripetal force to really get our butt to clear. So I would encourage you, it does not need to be your fastest spin by any means, but don't be afraid to add a little kick into it, okay? So we've got our first step into our spin. Hand switch, opposite foot, swivel, and flare. And like I said, we can just take it to a pull sit right there. So that was our first flare. Now we're going to add our second flare. So to take it to our second flare, it is an invert. Yes, it is aerial. But that being said, it is a momentum invert. Okay. In many things in pole, if our timing is right, it doesn't take a lot of strength. If our timing is off, it takes more strength. Okay. So maybe you're thinking, I'm not an aerial inverter. There's no way I can get this. Maybe, maybe not. But I wouldn't write it off because, like I said, maybe you have amazing timing on this and you're like, oh my goodness, look at what I just did. And that's awesome. And if the invert doesn't go all the way up, you take it back to that pole set. Okay. So I don't want to say across the board you have to have an aerial invert to do this one. You absolutely can try it without having an aerial invert. And worst case, it looks like a flare down into a pole sit. Still a very cool dynamic move. Okay. But that being said, if your timing is just right, you've just kicked into an aerial invert. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Okay. So let's add our second flare. Our second flare, honestly, of this entire part is mentally the easiest part. Physically, as I mentioned about the timing, can be the hardest part, especially like now when I'm trying to kind of slow this down a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. And you all are going to see a slow-mo version that I will, digitally edit so you can see it, not in real time. But if I'm doing it at a slower speed, it makes it harder. If I do it all at once, it's much easier because I'm using that centripetal force and that momentum to take me into it. Okay, so let's take it to our second flare. All right, so first climb, hand switch and or second climb, opposite foot through, flare and up. One thing I will say with this that makes this look cleaner, and of course, keep in mind, this is my personal preference on aesthetics. We all have our own, what we want things to look like. But I found for me, when playing with this one, when I go from that first flare into that second invert, I like to think of click and then up. Sometimes my ankles don't totally touch, sometimes they do. But just thinking of kind of closing that circuit and then up, I find for me personally, I like the look of it and I find it looks cleaner. But just something to keep in mind, because that is something initially when I started playing with this move, I would do it and be like, ooh, okay, something looks off. Like there's a moment there of like, to me, felt and looked sloppy. And then as I slowed it down and looked at it, it was because I went through that first flare and then from here right into my invert versus that first flare closed and then open. And like I said, this is just aesthetics, personal preference. If that's not a look that you like, do you, boo. Okay, so I'm going to run through a slow-mo version of this here as I talk it for you. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on and review all the things, because remember, there's a lot going on, upper, lower, all the things. First climb. In this, we are going clockwise, which will put us on a right side invert. First climb. From there, hand switch, a second climb if you have room on your pole. Opposite foot to hand, the arch of the foot goes to the pole. From there, other leg, which is the same knee as the top hand, that leg is out in your windup. Bend the knee, you're looking over that bottom shoulder as we roll through it. Big fan kick around, looking to the pole as we go into the second part of the flare, which is the invert. And then, of course, from there, you can hook a leg into an outside leg hang. You can bring it down, whatever you want to do with this. Okay. So there's multiple pieces going on here with this. Okay. And of course, with all moves, work this on both sides. You're going to have one side that is going to make more sense in your head than the other. We all do. My right side is definitely my dominant. I can't even say dominant. But when I'm training this one, I work it on both sides. In this tutorial, I've kept it all on the same side for the sake of trying to make it not too confusing for you, because as it is, left side, right side, inside, outside is very confusing with this one to explain and watch, because what's inside and outside is changing, left and right is changing as well. So for the sake of trying to make it more easily followed. I've kept it all on the same side for you. Okay, so this is a double flare. Play around with this one. Okay, you should, of course, have an invert from the ground before working on this one. But that being said, that doesn't mean that you need an invert to start working on this one, I should say. To finish it and get to the second flare, yes, you're going to need to be comfortable going upside down. But to work on just the first part of that first flare, 100% do not need to have an invert. So play around with this one. I would love to see how it goes. If you do put it together in a combo and a tutorial, feel free to send those to me. I love celebrating and doing happy dances with moves that people have figured out from my tutorials. If you post it, Facebook, Instagram, feel free to tag me. I would love to see. And of course, just with this move and any of the moves, tutorials that you ever see me do, if you ever want to dive deeper in them, feel free to reach out to me for a virtual private. And of course, be happy to work through things and even modify things for you. Because remember, I'm giving you the generic rules on everything. But as we all know, our bodies and brains are all different. And sometimes a move is eluding us, and it's because it's not customized for what our needs are. And for that, like I said, if you ever need help with that and want to dive deeper, feel free to reach out to me. My website, www.elizabethbfit.com. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Best of luck to you in your polling, and let's see those double flares.